matters to you. If you go to our website on brandsforgood.asia/emergestronger/ES/24, you can go and register for the next event as well, right? And of course, our last webinar it's actually going to be a live stream event, and we were very, very lucky, and we've been sort of very fortunate, and we're quite excited. We haven't sort of announced it yet, but privately within this group, we managed to secure ESM Goh Chok Tong as our final speaker in September, and he will be sort of sharing his own opinion on the state of affairs. Of course, sharing a little bit more about his recent book launch as well. So those will be the last 3 events we will have in the next over the next month or 2. Brands for Good itself, of course, as you might know, nominations is still open. The deadline for nominations is at the end of this month, but that's the hard deadline, which means that all material submissions for the judging will have to come in before the end of the month. I will recommend for those of you who are still considering coming in for Brands for Good to sign up quickly, and then my team will actually work through with you what are the materials needed to do for the submission itself, right? Okay, so Brands for Good is online. It's at brandsforgood.asia/nominate, and that's where you can get a little bit information about the campaign itself, right? Once again, if you are not in our WhatsApp chat group, this is our Brands for Good WhatsApp chat group 3. And if you can scan the QR code on screen, and you can sort of join the conversation that we're having online as well. Okay. Looks like, okay, so it's 2:06, and I think to sort of keep time, and then we've got 26 guests today, or 29 guests today. And once again, I'd like to welcome everyone, and then welcome to our Brands for Good Emerge Stronger webinar series. Just a little bit of history. We've been running this Brands for Good webinar series since COVID started in February 2020, last year, right? And we really literally had to cancel all our physical events, and we pivoted to running our events as a webinar. But we also started recognizing, and we also sort of heeded the government's call and theme for businesses to come out stronger out of this situation. And we didn't know that it was going to last 2 years. And obviously it's been quite a journey for many of us, I suppose, as well. This is our 24th or 23rd session so far over the last 2 years. So it's been quite a crazy time. Brands for Good, of course, is co-chaired between Alan from IPOS Society. He's the founding president for IPOS Society, who unfortunately is unable to join us today. And the other co-chair is Esther, which I have the privilege of having with us, and who will be sharing a little bit more about Brands for Good. So I'll start first with a little bit of sharing from Esther. Esther?
Thanks, Glenn. Okay, just give me a second. I'm just going to share my screen. Okay. Yeah, so thank you for being here on the afternoon with us. I think it's a privilege for us to be able to have you guys join us. So without further ado, I think for those who have heard this presentation, you have joined us for the many webinars, just bear with us. I will briefly go through it, just more for those who are joining us for the first time. So I think Glenn has also touched a little bit on what we do. I think this is our fourth year running, right, Glenn? 4th year, right? 2020, yeah.
Right,
so 4th year running, yeah. Losing count of the years, but it's been really good 3 years. Give me a second. I don't know why my internet is really slow, but yeah, there you go. Yeah, so I'm just going to briefly go through what we do and also what is our proposition. And for those who have not joined us, feel free to join us after this. I think vibrant community lah. As mentioned, we have the founding partners, both IPOS Society and IPCC Singapore will approach basically by CEO Asia to say, look, we have this idea of wanting to do a movement called Brands for Good. And because I think we had a common vision in relation to helping local businesses commercialize their IP, and that's how the IP side of things came about, the collaboration between IPOS Society and IPCC Singapore. And then, of course, without funds, we can't move, and that's why we have Maybank on board, and they have been with us from the very beginning and continuing to support us, for the 4th year running. So really, thank you, Maybank, for making this come true for us. Yeah. So as of today, Brands for Good, we have incorporated as a non-profit organization. We're registered in Singapore. And over the last 3 years, I think we've built quite a sizable community, and we have over like 300 SMEs now, all involved in positive impact enterprises across Singapore and Southeast Asia. Also, we are in partnership with Ariba, which I think Thomas will share a little bit more later on what Ariba stands for. And also, we have sponsors that have consistently been supporting us as well in our efforts. This is the signing of MOU with ASEAN CSR Network, which is also headed by Ariba, and I'll leave this for Thomas to present later. So this is a cutout from Business Times that was this year, and I was just showing how, despite the COVID-19 last year, we still did a virtual event. We did a combined conference actually with Arraybar, and also then had our presentation of our awards for all our award winners. So what exactly do we stand for? I think it's the marrying of intellectual property plus the business angle, and having, of course, the intellectual property for humanitarian good angle. We are looking at companies, because every company will have IP, depending whether you have patents or trademarks, your brands and whatnot. Those are also considered IP, and to bridge the gap between that and to enable businesses to understand how you can then use your brand, your patent, your technology for humanitarian good. So this is really has been the sort of the value and underlying principal message that we have been carrying for Brands for Good, right? So we are also of course propelling the broad ESG framework, and this is environmental, social, and governance. These can all be evident in the categories that we have for nominations. So I'm gonna briefly scroll through. Just reinstating our mission is to help good brands differentiate effectively and create transformative value by their intangible assets. Second is, of course, to make waves with ASEAN Brands for Good stories. So we're not just limited to Singapore, and that's why we are, in partnership with Arraybar to reach the ASEAN market. And also, thirdly, to build a global community of responsible and inclusive businesses. So if you are one of such, business that you're already, cultivating this culture, now with a larger group of community, we can make a bit more noise in that sense. So our 4 C's, these are our proposition for all businesses to raise competencies, to help build a community, to have capital. So we are also looking into injecting and getting funds, right, to help some of our businesses in their growth of what they're going to do in relation to reaching out to the community in positive impact. And of course, to raise champions for good as change makers. So in every category, every year, we do recognize certain companies who are outstanding in their leadership, and we call them champions. So I won't be going through this. I think I have also briefly touched all this as well. due to time constraints. So these are actually some of our champions. They are leading in their very space, right? Of what they are doing, and I think from the previous years, we have gotten a lot of feedback from the winners that joining Brands for Good has actually helped them to elevate their brand awareness actually in the market as well. So it's a good thing for us to hear, and it's very heartening to hear as well that we are able to play a part, in highlighting what they have already been doing before, but bringing it to light for the community to know. So this is a sample, or rather a snapshot of what we did for 2020. We have creatively run the award ceremony virtually, and then we also had SIMAN and the ambassador and many more to sort of grace our events. These are some of the events that if you're joining as part of our network, we also have many events with ministers and closed door dialogues, which if apart from that, you may not be able to have the chance to do it. And so this was a conversation that we had with Minister Chan Chun Sing, and I think as Glenn mentioned, an upcoming one as well. And these are some of the other events that we have. This was our opening sort of ceremony that we had earlier this year, where we had Prof Lim Cheong Guan and Ms. Lim Hui Hua, and we talked about the role of government and business. Okay, so these are some of the past highlights. I won't go through all of them. Just scrolling through for you to have a taste of what our events and what we have done so far. You can also see more of the information that are available on our website. So how can you be part of our community? First of all, if you haven't thought of nominating, I would really strongly suggest that you nominate yourself. And even if you don't win or don't get chosen, you will then be part of our community already. And if you can't win this year, try again next year. Second is if we always welcome more sponsorship, and I think with more sort of funds, we can do more. We are already doing our best with whatever that we have today, but I think with more support, we can definitely serve the community better. And third of all, in investments, we are also, as I mentioned, considering, in terms of the capital proposition, considering a Brands for Good impact fund. So if you know of anybody that will fit in this category to collaborate with us on funding projects, please reach out to us. Fourth, partnership. If you're also part of other organizations that you see that can marry and tie our common vision together, we would love to have a conversation. And lastly, community leadership. We are obviously seeking volunteers to help organize and support our programs, because all this we are all doing it on our own accord, and all volunteer on volunteer basis. So we definitely, more hands make the work light. So these are just some fun things that we have done, throughout the years. I think every year now we sort of have a tribute video involving all the winners. So it's quite fun. You can always go on our YouTube and watch it. All right, so I think that's it from me. So again, I think we've already done the final call now for nominations. So please do send in your submissions. Yeah.
Right. Thank you, Esther, and I appreciate the fast presentation. So as Esther shared, right, nominations are still open. So please go and visit the website brandsforgood.asia and /nominate. Of course, as she shared, as Esther shared, this couldn't have been done without our partners. And key to our partners, of course, is Maybank, which is our sponsor. So I'm going to get a little airtime to Helmut to share a little bit.
Hi, thanks, Glenn. Okay, let me share my screen. Is it good, Glenn?
Yes, you're good.
Okay, hi, good afternoon, everyone. Okay, my name is Helmut. I'm from the SME Banking Business Development team. So today I'll be sharing with you a little bit about Maybank. So Maybank has been around since 1960. with the largest bank in Malaysia, as well as the fourth largest bank in Southeast Asia. We are the only bank that has presence in all 10 ASEAN countries. So if you're planning to have a go regional, so maybe we're one of the banks that you can consider to bank with. Yeah. So this year, we actually launched this Maybank Momentum Grant. It's actually the first recyclable grant that's up to 150K for small charities. So some of the requirements like maximum 1 million in annual operating expenditure is highlighted in the box below, so you can have a look there. So if you're interested to apply for this one, you can always reach out to us. So at the same time, to help SMEs, we actually work with Enterprise Singapore to provide financing. So these are the three types of financings that we can provide, including WCL, capital loan, temporary bridging loan, as well as EFS trade loan. So we're talking about the WCL is more for the working capital gaps that for SMEs is a maximum cap at 300K. Then with TBL, temporary bridging loan, this one is more for to help SMEs during this COVID period. Yeah, so this one is up to 3 million. So both are actually quite similar. It's more for a working capital purpose. Then the third type of loan we have here with enterprise will be EFS trade loans. It's for your stock financing when you do import and export. This one will be very helpful. So on top of financings, all kind of properties we finance: shop house, offices, industrial space. Yeah. So in fact, we provide up to 90% for owner-occupied properties. Yeah. So if you have you want to do a refinancing, or you're thinking of expanding your operations, reach out to us. We can provide you the service that you need. Okay, so I think that's about all for today. So if you need anything, please feel free to reach out to me. Thank you. Back to you, Ben.
Right, thank you, Helmut, and appreciate your time. Okay, and then finally, least but not least, of course, our other key partner, and then one that Esther sort of alluded to, is actually ASEAN CSR Network, which together with ASEAN CSR Network, we've launched Arraybar, which is the ASEAN Responsible and Inclusive Business Alliance. So Thomas, over to you.
Thank you. Let me share my screen now. Can you all see my screen? Okay.
Yes, we can.
Good afternoon. A very warm welcome and thanks, especially to Professor Lawrence Lowe for sharing his group, part of his great intellectual knowledge and repertoire of knowledge that he has. And also warm welcome to all of you. This is a good afternoon to spend on a Friday. I just want to give a little bit of introduction to Ariba, the ASEAN Responsible Inclusive Business, which we have Branch for Good as our partner. This is an initiative of two organizations, the ASEAN Business Advisory Council, which is an ASEAN body of businessmen from all the ASEAN countries to advise ASEAN leadership, and the ASEAN CSR Network. We are an ASEAN entity started to promote corporate social responsibility, CSR, within ASEAN. So we have been, ASEAN CSR Network has been in existence for some time. We have been working through networks of networks, the chambers of commerce and others in different countries. Now we're trying to go through the company level to operate. And we did it by having a code of conduct and work. So I just want to tell you that, not going to repeat, today's times is very urgent. And if you look at today's newspapers, every day there is something about sustainability. And it is so great that a few years ago, less than 10 years ago, I made a presentation to MTI in Singapore. And then they just told me, does it grow the GDP? Does it increase our GDP? Does it create jobs? As long as it doesn't build GDP, we are not interested. Today, with climate change, with social problems, we realize that if we don't resolve these issues, we don't have a GDP to grow. And I think the COVID crisis has taught us this. So I'm just going to say that there is a whole lot of reaction from the ground all over the place. Governments are also responding. There is total ignorance of the rule of law, corruptions there, and ASEAN. And there is a whole global trend now on whether it's climate change, for green, also for people with free trade agreements having clauses on environment and labor standards. So ASEAN leaders also have to do something about it. And sorry, why doesn't this? So my screen doesn't seem to move. Just give me a second. Sorry. Okay. We try to work how to establish it. Actually, we have a code. We agreed that we should have some values for businesses to go ahead. And Ariba is actually talking about businesses to act on these value systems of because you cannot have law for everything. Although there are lawyers here who tell you that it's possible up to a certain time. So we have to talk about values, the spirit of the laws, and a whole lot. So these are the 7 principles of values that we're talking about: accountability, transparency, ethical behavior, respect for stakeholder interests, which is beyond shareholders, respect for rule of law, respect for international norms of behavior, and to treat people with respect, dignity, and fairness, which is another name for human rights. And we also said that for a responsible, inclusive business, there are a few subject areas that we should focus on. And the first and most important one is on governance. Sorry. I have to go backwards. Okay, so on governance, on the environment, labor, anti-corruption, human rights, consumer law, correction, and community involvement. These are just subject areas. On governance, we think governance is the most important. And if you don't have good governance, you can't manage it, you can't implement anything else. So governance is key to doing anything. And responsible, inclusive business is just being responsible to not just making money, but also contributing to the well-being of society as a whole. So Ariba has got 6 objectives. I'm not going to go through, but I think basically is to have a vision where the world, where businesses do well by doing good. You do it because it's the right thing to do, and you will succeed. And our job is to promote this responsible business conduct, good governance, share information, share experiences, share good practices, support governments, businesses, other stakeholders to do this, and to connect businesses. And it is like our relationship with a number of our chambers of commerce outside, within ASEAN, and also with Friends for Good to complement their award scheme is also part of it. And I also want to say one of the other small things that we are doing is a few projects. One of it is also on procurement. We are hoping that using these principles, companies that use those principles will be enabled to get more business. And this is a drive that we are pushing through and trying to get more acceptance within the region and beyond. So what I have done is briefly just touch the surface. And if you need more, please do join us. Arraybar, we have a microsite, and our marketing is being done in collaboration with Friends for Good, and we can all help each other. So on that note, thank you. Happy to share. So if you have any questions later on offline, please contact me or any of us. Thank you.
Right. Thank you very much, Thomas. And just to sort of pipe in as well, I've shared the Arraybar website address. It's at www.arraybar.org in the chat group itself. So for those of you who are still unfamiliar with Ariba and what it does, you can always visit the website and find out more. Right. And so there we go. So we've come to the main the main show for today. And I'd like to once again thank everybody for their time. Just a quick reminder that we have a WhatsApp chat group, and I will post that on the chat group later for those who came in late to join our conversation. to, okay, sorry. Okay, so now before we begin and before I let Lawrence, Prof. Lawrence Low share, I would like to take this opportunity to take a photo shoot. So if I can get everyone to sort of turn on their cameras and we can quickly get a shot out and Firas, are you there?
Yep, ready when you guys are.
Okay, thank you.
So let's wait for everyone to turn on their video cams.
Yep.
Oh, actually, there's a lot of you guys.
No.
Okay, smile everyone.
Okay.
2 thumbs up. Okay, there's a few pages. Ready, smile. 1. Oh, wait, hang on. More and more people are coming in. Smile. 1, 2, 3. Okay, one more time. Smile. 1, 2, 3. Fantastic. Thank you, guys.
Right. Okay, so thank you everyone for coming today and being a part of our session. And today, as I shared, we have the privilege of having Prof. Lawrence Low from NUS to share a little bit about brand and sustainability. So over to you, Prof.
Okay, thank you, Glenn. Let me share my screen. Just to check, you can see the screen, full screen?
Yeah, full screen, you're good.
Okay, thank you, the organizer, Brand for Good, for inviting me for this very special seminar. And in particular, I really have to thank Mr. Thomas, you know, the two of us have been partners. I'm not sure what to call, maybe partners in crime for many years. We've been collaborating on several projects. And just now, Thomas mentioned that I'm a reservoir of knowledge. I think it's something very interesting because a reservoir, even though, you know, it keeps water, you have to keep up with all the latest knowledge. Otherwise, it will be made obsolete by another new brand, and it is called New Water. So you know, in my profession, I always have to keep up, even though, you know, we store the water. And today, I'm very happy and quite delighted to be with all our friends here in this forum, so that, you know, I can share some of my maybe opinion, ideas about impact of sustainability on brand value. To put it more shortly, your organization is called Brands for Good. So my talk today is sustainability on brands. I would say my short title for today is Good for Brands. Sustainability is good for brands. And I am very passionate about this topic precisely because I come from a place called Center for Governance and Sustainability at NUS Business School. And we have been doing quite a lot of work in governance. And just earlier this year, just a few months ago, we actually rebranded ourselves to be called Center for Governance and Sustainability. We used to be called a very long name. I'm even very afraid to name it, but now we are quite precise. We used to do a lot of governance. I'll share some of the work we have done. And now we are very heavily and very strongly into sustainability. So for the talk today, is allocated about quite a long time, maybe almost up to an hour, including the Q&A. I have half a dozen of things. And I have to say it upfront, there'll be quite a number of slides here and there. And I'll be very willing to share a full version of the slide. So what you see is what you get. I can make a version available to the organizer in case you want to circulate. That's not a problem. So you have to say upfront, don't have to take screenshot of everything you see, save your camera space. The whole slides will be given to you, everything. And I also have to say that I want to conduct it in the seminar style, American style. So feel free to chime in anytime. Not to worry, you know, you just unmute yourself, find a nanosecond gap between my speech, and then just chime in. You know, I will know what to do if you are, you know, I will manage the time and weave your idea into what I'm saying. So for this talk, there are 6 key things I want to say. Of course, the first thing I want to say is to lay the context and the scope. So I will say something about the place where I'm in, maybe just for maybe a few seconds to a minute, and then I go on to the main part, which is the study itself, which was just conducted. And then I go on to, I'll call maybe the main dish is the Sustainable Brands Framework. I will highlight some case studies of, I think this will be something maybe useful for our audience here, to look at some of the real examples, real insights from real brands operating in our market space now. And then I try to relate to the ASEAN context, because I believe many of us in the audience also want to regionalize our involvement, regionalize our growth into new markets, particularly in ASEAN, because now, ASEAN is so heavily branded in this setting. So I use the word ASEAN, and also because I've been doing a lot of joint work with Thomas on ASEAN, so just as well. And then I will have some issues, and then we will have a Q&A dialogue. But even for that, I would like to say again, feel free to chime in anytime, anyone, anything. Okay, yeah. Okay, let me just, in a few seconds, to lay the context, not so much to advertise ourselves. My center has been doing quite a lot of research in two spaces: corporate governance, corporate sustainability. And in the usual ways, we have our media for disseminating and sharing our insights. We've been quoted in the media quite a lot. In fact, the last calendar year, myself and my center has been mentioned 600 times. I don't know whether that will qualify me for Brands for Good, but never mind. Yeah,
we should, right?
Okay, but more importantly, the bottom line today is, I really want to use this occasion to find new industry partners, including Brand for Goods. And I was looking at all the audiences today. Many of them, many of you can be my partners. And talking about partners, this is just an illustrative list. In the true spirit of brands, I don't list them by English word. I just show the brands. You can see from A all the way to the T. ASEAN CSR Network is there. Some of the big four, industry regulator, SGX. I'm hoping for the day when Brands for Good can be listed here as well. All you need is to collaborate on the project. So we'll put you up as one of our partners. And lately, we even have PwC, which is going to do some work with us on sustainability as well. And we even have TCS coming in, going to do some work on AI and machine learning. So I think it's something very, very exciting. I hope to partners, any one of you, if you are keen, feel free to contact me to advance any initiative, studies, research, or even marketing and consultancy work. Yeah. And my center is just organized along two main areas. It's just a simple graphic, CG and CS, and anything in between. And what is in between? For example, we do work on diversity, gender diversity, ethnic diversity, and we have done quite a lot of very strong work on business integrity. And again, this is in partnership with ASEAN CSR Network on business integrity. And now our main focus, our demand, we have a lot of demand from outside partners in sustainability. In fact, when we rebranded ourselves this year, our web visitorship just shoot up instantaneously because of the word sustainability. So it really goes to show the importance of the brand. What you name yourself is what you get. Full stop. Yeah. Sometimes you don't have to do anything, just how you name yourself, people will be a path to your door. So that's branding. I think this is what your organization believe in. So for example, one of the projects in corporate governance, you can see the circle here. One of the project has been, we do the ranking of all listed companies in Singapore. It's called the SGTI, Singapore Governance and Transparency Index. It has been in the Business Time headlines for 11 consecutive years. You can see the number 11 because every year I update the slide, I just change the number because every year it hits a new number. So this year, just a few days ago, last week, we again hit the headlines in our governance study. The CEO of Singapore Exchange, Radko, was there. He was the main speaker at my forum, and I gave the presentation. So just last week, our project was spread over 5 pages in Business Time, including even the editorial. So I think, if anything, I'm very, very fortunate to have that impact based on the good branding that we have in governance and sustainability. And just to lead into my sharing, also in sustainability, and I will talk more about that later. We've been quite active in the space in the last 2 Singapore studies. It was actually taken over by Singapore Exchange, even though it was started with Thomas and myself. SGS literally inherited it from us, and we were asked to do the work for them. So this was the last 2 forums. You can see the picture on the left is BC, before COVID. The picture on the right is AD, after disruption. So okay, so you can see, you know, between just 2 studies, it was a bit different. We have a fiscal event, and just in May, 3 months back, we have a Zoom event. The Minister for Sustainability was there, Ms. Grace Fu, and of course, many of the key people. And this leads on to my one of the key things today, which is the main session. After laying the context in what I do, I think it will give you a good understanding where I come from in terms of all the work that we carry out at the NUS Business School. And I must say that all the work we do, even though it's academically rigorous, our main aim, and I make it a very strong point, it must have a practice contribution. And the language we talk and we speak must always be in tune with managerial audience, corporate leadership, leadership in SME. You know, sometimes SME is quite a loaded word, but I think, you know, SME is something that we also want to focus in. So for the presentation today, I have this framework. This is the framework for the session today. You can see I have 4 pieces. On the left side, let me try some trick. Okay. Can you see the circle? Yeah. I mean, I'm so used to giving lectures, writing on whiteboard. One thing I missed in the Zoom period is the whiteboard. So this is the closest I can get. Sustainability leading to brand value. That's the main packing, order today. But I will actually go along. Something more important is how do you do that? It is actually carry out through having brands that are sustainable. Brands for good should be brands that are sustainable. I think that is a given now. There's no doubt about it. And hopefully today I will use the dialogue and also some of my sharing. We can look at some of the insights that are really, relevant for some of the organizations here, particularly those SME who are aspiring to be perhaps going regional, especially in ASEAN. So let me just go on to the first link. This is the first part of the framework for today's presentation. The relationship between sustainability and brand value. And this is almost the only technical part. I will show you there's only 1 or 2 a bit technical slides, but I will talk in English. Even though there are some numbers, I will share one of my academic study because this is rigorous and it's published in a professional academic scholarly journal. So it goes through the test of scholarship. Okay, so this is again based on many of the work that we have done, that I show you the sustainability study. I show the Singapore now. Later I'll show the ASEAN and also highlight many of the things that Mr. Thomas has done. We have been doing a biennial study with the exchange now. They commissioned our center to do, and they took control of the whole project, including the event, including the speakers. But I will end up usually being the main speaker and moderator because they commission us. They Commission means funded, I think. Okay, so the first puzzle question. Is there a relationship between sustainability as measured by the reporting? So I'll just lump the two words together in brand value. So to answer this question, of course, in university, I get some of the young, best and brightest. I'm no longer young. I'm not sure whether I'm the best, but I'm definitely not the brightest. So I got a very young person, my master student, a lady in the Master of Environmental Management. And also she's a part-time research analyst in my center, Shamin Tan. We actually did 100 leading brands in Singapore. Some are large brands, some are smaller brands, but they are all the leading brands that are listed in brand finance. So because they have a data on this, I will talk about how a brand is being calculated. I think this is something that might inform the audience as well. So we relate to all the sustainability that we have measured. So we actually published it. This was just published a few months ago, less than a year old, in sustainability. This is actually a sequel to another study that I have done with Thomas and another research associate, also a very young lady, on sustainability and market value. So this is a sequel to an earlier study that we have done. So what we have found very interesting, but let me just motivate the rationale for study. And I think if you look at the outside-in approach, I think if I say this too much, I'm preaching to the converted now. But of course, we all know that the logic is not from outside in. Businesses, have to view, have to position sustainability with this intergenerational perspective, not only by yourself, but looking at future cohorts of humankind that comes in. I think this is the original conception of sustainability, that you take what you need in this generation without jeopardizing future generation of fulfilling their needs. This is a standard definition. I think many of you have heard many times. So we follow this logic and say that precisely because of this, customer will also want this, and this will contribute to the brand. And for businesses, this means that they need to look at new opportunities, new brand differentiation through sustainability. It can be done. Later, I show you some real examples. So, and then from the inside, leadership is also in the same vein, highlighting the importance of sustainability. So I quoted some Stanford studies and then find that if you follow the logic of argument down, it will affect your earnings, and this will actually I think this is what you like, intangible assets. This whole organization is about the intangibles. We are looking at how this will actually lead to brand value. So this is the line of argument that we wrote a few pages on to justify that in the scholarly paper. Then in terms of the measurement, there are two key measurements. One is sustainability, one is brand value, brand. In sustainability, we are very, very fortunate to use a framework that was originated by Thomas when he was, a CEO of another organization in Singapore before ASEAN CSR Network. So he got this framework, and we fine-tune, adapted it along over the years, and it becomes now the scholarly reference for measuring sustainability. Is cited many times all over. So based on the original framework that we published in another paper, we use it for this paper. You can see at the bottom, the source is ASEAN CSR Network and CGS, my center. It has a few things. ESG. ESG, all of us know, environmental, social governance, and actually in the original and the full conceptualization of sustainability, there's also an economic part that sometimes becomes taken for granted. But in all the key standards now, economic part is actually a key thing. For example, some of you may know the GRI standards, Global Reporting Initiative. Economy is a big part. In fact, governance is not so much the specific disclosure, but it's elevated to general disclosure together with the broader reporting principle. So we have a very elaborate framework to grade, to assess each company, many items. It's not just check the box, but looking at the quality of their disclosure. I actually have a team of very experienced assessor in my center, including student interns, full-time research associate. Their job is just to assess companies, governance, sustainability, and we do that. So we use this as a measure, and I think many of these specific things would be relevant to many of us here today. I won't have the time to go into each of these detail, but you can see the items. These are all the standardized measurement of sustainability according to global standards, GRI, SASB, and many other standards. Yeah, okay. So for brand, this is a very tricky thing. How do you measure brand value? And I think perhaps this is something Brands for Good will also be interested in. You know, you are talking about Brands for Good, but how do you actually measure your brand? So there's a stream of research that is being operationalized and made practical by a leading journal. Actually, it's a periodical professional periodical, Brand Finance. And they use the ISO 10668 standards, and these standards is actually a set of standards. Let me quote the exact word. The standard is about brand valuation, requirements for monetary brand valuation. So it's trying to put a monetary quantum. Every SME can actually use this kind of approach to calculate your brand value. So it's a bit complicated, but there's a key concept. I will say this and then show you a chart. They use a royalty relief method. Royalty is spelled with R. It's not L. It's not a misspelling. It's R. Royalty, meaning that they actually trying to simulate, what is your economic benefit if you were to hypothetically license the product. There will be a stream of income, royalties that you pay. So it's quite complex, but in a nutshell, there are just 2 or 3 steps. One is to look at your company. Your company can, many companies can actually use a balanced scorecard to calculate your brand strength. There are many indicators. For example, your market share, your customer satisfaction, this is called the brand strength index, your financial positioning. It's a very balanced scorecard, your human resources. So over time, this is a proprietary framework like Brand Finance. They have this BSI. Then in every industry, there's also a standard thing, number 2, called royalty rate. That means the way a royalty can be attached to certain industry. So for example, in luxury goods, royalty rate is higher, very obviously, because LV, Gucci, Burberry. I'm not so good at luxury brand because I never buy them, but I walk around shops. I know they command higher royalty rates. If you look at commodity, for example, let's say rice brand or brand of sugar, the royalty rate is lower. So you can actually multiply these 2 to get what you call the brand revenue, because you can actually forecast your revenue and then multiply by your royalty rate to calculate what you call the brand revenue. And then you take the series of brand revenue over the next few years. In finance, it is called, you take the net present value. That means you take the sum of all the future stream of finance. Just to be a bit more technical, you discount it by the interest rate. That means you and then you bring it forward, because anything today is actually worth more than anything in the future. Yeah, okay, yeah. Okay, so this is how they calculate, but not to worry. But I think many of us will be quite keen to find out the technical details. But then let me just highlight the 3. Just look at things on the right side. Forget about the things on the left. These are just some statistics that we got out of very technical modeling. not to worry, because this is what researchers and the journal reviewers, the journal editors will look for. They will look very carefully in all your computation. But if you look on the right side, there are just 3 findings. Very simple. 1, higher sustainability leads to higher brand value. Okay, in other words, in fact, I won't say higher sustainability. The presence of sustainability report lead to higher brand value. First, I have to say in a more definite way, the presence of sustainability report leads to better brand value. Then number 2, that's higher sustainability reporting score, which is the quality, leads to higher brand value. So number 1 finding is about quantity. Number 2 is about quality. And then very interestingly, what we found is that the quality of a company sustainability also have a future effect on your brand value. So if you calculate your brand value in the future, we found that not only your brand value this year is affected, future years brand value is also dependent on what you invested in sustainability this year. So these are 3 rigorous statistical finding that we have established in a scholarly journal, but forget about the statistics. I can't even remember what all those numbers stands for, but I only remember the 3 findings: quantity, quality, future effect. So resolving the puzzle, presto, we have found this significant and positive effect. But so what? So what? I mean, this is just a statistical study. Yeah, I mean, most of us will be concerned about, I'm not so concerned about large samples, 100 companies. In fact, in our study, we use 2 years of companies, so it's actually about 200 companies, but because of we need the overlap, so we essentially use about 180 companies. More importantly is, what is it in it for me, in my organization, in my company, in my SME, one company at a time. So you know, so then before I go on to one company at a time, let me highlight what are some of the things that are operating at the company level. If we look at some of the specific things at the company level, what we found is that at the point of study, of course now things are changing. The most, in fact, I won't say most, the least, number 1 lowest in the pecking order is climate change. That was in my study, but that was before all the recent bad weather. And then, you know, even human rights. We have many indicators. The top 5 that are the least, that means the bottom 5, climate change, product stewardship, biodiversity, human rights, labor practices, and these 5 were things that surfaced during the COVID crisis. My study was done with the data before COVID. I have to confess that, because of the lag time in the publishing process. So you can see all the problems that we've identified at the company level comes out clearly in the COVID, particularly in Singapore. Labor practices, industrial relations came out last year in the first big wave, all the workers' dormitory. So what I'm saying is, you know, you can see among the 5 things in terms of sustainable brand, you can see already environmental is only 2, climate change and biodiversity. You can see social is about, in fact, stewardship probably is closer to governance. So human rights and labor practices are social. So you can see that sustainability comes out very badly in the social and governance perspective. That's from the company level. Then we are looking at also the types of company. This one is the last technical slide, and then I move on to something more insightful. Just one more technical one. A lot of people in Singapore say that, oh, all the big brands, all the things are due to GLC, which is true. What we found is that GLCs, if you look at the right hand side, they actually score better than non-GLCs, including the SME. So far, all the GLC are non-SME. As a group, GLC score better. But what we found is that actually the top company is a non-GLC. You know, they one non-GLC beat all the other GLCs in our study. But again, this is a large company and it's a public knowledge now. If you are curious to know the name, I will declare it here because it's public knowledge. City Developments Limited. It's a one non-GLC that beat all the GLC in my study in terms of quality of the sustainability disclosure. Okay, yeah, okay. So we have this, and when it was published last year in September, that was my school immediately. Wow, they were so excited. So our corporate communication literally took the whole study and wrote a press release, and it was published in the newspaper. And then in the press release, then I move on to, you know, this is something probably we need to discuss later on. You know, company will need to internalize, and I think it's not something just for the CSO or the board. It needs to be shared across the whole company. So there are many implications of the study, but one of the key thing was this. It has to be something mainstream, something that's embedded, something that's internalized across the entire organization, big or small. Okay, so I move on to how do companies do it, but maybe I pause here for just a few seconds in case there are some questions, because otherwise you have to remember so many things before you ask your question. And in case there are any burning questions, you can melt the iceberg now. Any burning questions?
Prof, there are two questions actually in the chat group.
Okay.
Michael Yin, the other one from Michelle Zhang.
Okay, I can read the chat group. Maybe I will address them now. Let me see. In no particular order, I read it just in the order of the chat. With no. Okay, Michael say, with the emergence of sustainability analytical technologies and green fintech, do you think consultant would be still relevant in the sector? Yes, of course. Otherwise, I'm out of job. Even with all the analytical technologies and green fintech, I think you still need some human intervention. Yeah, definitely. The green fintech, in fact, I'm quite involved in green fintech in terms of teaching and also sharing. I just spoke in one green fintech event just a few weeks ago. In fact, I won't say that they will be sufficient. It needs to be an augmented approach, hybrid between human and machine. It scares me to think that, you know, in the future, AI machines will decide what is social, what is ethical. Okay, but anyway, I think the two must work together, because even I'm talking just now, I told you I'm trying to use AI and machine learning to look at governance and sustainability. But in companies, I think ultimately the buck stops at the human. Yeah. And then maybe let me move down. Michelle Zhang, can initiatives such as UNPRI, which stands for United Nations Principle of Responsible Investments, okay, encourage investors and organizations to do well by doing good? Definitely. All we need is standards. In fact, I think in many jurisdictions, what is more important is not so much having law, because you have all the legislation. It's very hard to have a one-size-fits-all for all companies if you have legislation. So if you have standards, it gives some room for maneuvering and selection. So I think going forward, we should not be actually talking about compliance. We should be talking about alignment with standards. And I think that's more important. I think especially global standards. And even when I'm talking now beyond the UNPRI, which is a set of very general principles for investors, I think now there are some other standards for climate change that will definitely be put out. For example, TCFD, Task Force on Climate-Related Financial disclosure. This will be going to be required for financial institutions as a law, and this will also be mandated for listed companies. And I think if these are the two signal, all the rest of the company should follow such standards. So I fully support initiatives that guide companies, SME, precisely because they can be very descriptive. I won't say prescriptive, and organization can choose what is relevant for them. And many of these, usually in our professional circle, we call them comply or explain. Yeah. Oh, very good. Greenwashing. Michelle again. Yeah. Oh, wait. Before that, okay. Since I got yours, would there be greenwashing? Yeah, greenwashing will happen everywhere. As you know, as long as there are 50 shades of green, even that, you know, there are even companies that something is of different color, they declare it green. For example, I once went to a shopping center. They call themselves a green mall, green shopping center. And then in the shopping center, they in the big atrium, wow, big hoo-ha about a big lucky draw. You know, if you shop there, big lucky draw, and the first prize was a petrol car. Yeah, and they call themselves a green buildings. It's a sustainability initiative, but the first prize is a petroleum car emission fuel, fossil fuel emission car. Okay, good. Maybe one more question. What policy innovations should we expect from regulators to force push, incentivize the private sector to do good? I like the word innovation because we are always talking about policy guidance, policy law. And I think what is going to be next is we should not have too harsh a law, but we should use the positive aspects of incentive, encourage. So I think regulators should actually work in a very developmental way, not so much regulatory way with industry, to co-develop standards, co-own good practices, and sell the business case and not just sell the business compulsion. I think that's very important, especially for sustainability. I mean, really in my experience, I talked to many CEOs of SME. There was once when the sustainability was required, announced in 2016, I move around in circle. Just a small story. I spoke to a chief executive officer of a printing company, SME. And then he told me, oh, you Lawrence, Professor Lawrence, you're promoting sustainability, very good. But sir, let me tell you this, the CEO told me, you sustainability is going to put me out of business. I'm a printing company. And then he told me, tongue in cheek, while drinking in the cocktail, I'm a printing company. My greatest enemy is the PDF file, PDF format. Because of the PDF, I run out of business. So you can see all these are very real. All the problems faced, even we push so much sustainability, put everything digital, everything is now is PDF. Nobody needs to print anymore. But to him, his PDF, he never forget it. Please don't forget. So you can see. Then you have to sell to him. Of course, I did not have a chance. We were drinking beer during a cocktail, so I don't want to tell him. But there are also some success stories. I'm an educator. Every year I use publishers. So there was one publisher called Cengage. Of course, all publishers are now very innovative. They create. From a pure printing publishing company like McGraw-Hill, or they pivot themselves into a digital solution provider for textbook. So now they make exactly the same profit. They protect their PDF and their stuff, but because of this sustainability, everything is online. All my classes in NUS are 100% paperless, even before COVID. 100% paperless, which is good. Now COVID come, all my students are overseas, from overseas country, which is good. Everything is digital. We don't have to deliver books to them. Okay, maybe let me continue. Very good. So, but I will encourage also verbal questions. If you have verbal questions, you just put your hand. You can jump the queue for all questions. Yeah, I will put you to the top. Okay, let me share with you something.
Verbal question jumps queue.
Okay, verbal question jump queue. I push you out to the top. Like karaoke song, your song request go right up to the top. Okay. Anyone? Granny, anyone? Do you see anyone? No?
No
If
problem.
not,
I think we're all very quiet people.
okay,
Singapore
good.
culture.
Quiet sometimes may not be good. There was a famous book, Silent Sprint, and sustainability. Sometimes quiet, we will be all, not reacting to climate change. Yeah. Anyway, okay. Let me do something more practical now. How do companies derive value from sustainability? Let me use a case study framework. This one I will share very quickly. How this is done through 4 case study. Okay, I'm going to use my own case study framework. This is constructed by me, especially for this talk today, using 2 dimensions. On the bottom side, this is the principal driver or the basis. Some of the companies may be purpose-driven, some may be lifestyle-driven to attain sustainability. So I just explained the 2 dimensions. On the vertical is the fulcrum, the leverages, the method of which you want to do. Some companies or organizations will use knowledge application, including technology application. Some will actually appeal more to the social conscience. Yeah, so what I'm saying is you can actually build a sustainable brand using finding out what is the driver, what is the driving force. Is it purpose driven, lifestyle driven? Is it leveraging on social? Is it leveraging on technology and knowledge? So I have 4 case study. I will just go clockwise to highlight how sustainable brand, in my view, can be done. I have 4 examples. First one, I have to use this as the first one. Later I'll tell you why. It's quite hard to pronounce, but I think it's Jen Ash Team. Later we tell you how this brand came out. And then there's an Aesop brand, How Foods, and go clockwise. I have a personal interest in this. I'll tell you why. I use NUS Business School as another brand because I was quite involved in the rebranding as well. Okay, so let me do the first example. If you in Singapore, if you want to look for good brands, this is the first stop you go to, Brands for Good. Yeah, the first stop and the best stop to get the good brand. So among all your winners last year, yeah, I'm sure Grant and all the colleagues in Brands for Good love this. I use your Brands for Good as the best example. And not only, yeah, Grant, okay, right?
We love you, Prof.
Yeah, okay. Yes, you don't say love me, we are same gender. Okay, so of course, we don't just recognize a champion, I will recognize anybody. So since that there was a very strong promulgator of good branding, let me just use Thomas Ng, Gen Ash team as a random example. All the brands are equally good. So this is one good brand and sustainable brand Pioneer for e-learning in Asia and beyond, state of the art learning platforms, emulating, benchmarking against Ivy League university like Cornell. They have learning management system, they digitalize. So even before COVID, it was a very sustainable platform for use. And now even SPF are thinking, if you look at the bottom, how this can be used for SME. Yeah, so this is a Brands for Good, the best and the example, distinctive example. Founder Thomas Ng, the brand, the name, I just found out accidentally in the website. It came from 3 family members beside himself. The wife is Genevieve, so Jen, the daughter Ashley, and the son Timothy, so Jen Ash team, and then they are certified B Corp. In other words, they focus more on stakeholder capitalism. It's a long story about B Corp, but essentially they are moving away from just shareholder primacy shareholder returns to a broader spectrum. So you can see this is actually a very sustainable brand. If you look at the brand, you can see that this Genesis team is social conscious. Yes, you can see all the things they do, and purpose driven. You can see on the right side, you can see social conscience is always there. They are, beside what they do, they are helping all unfortunate, the less fortunate segments of society. So it's a very strong linkages to this brand. So this is a first example. Another example is something more recent, ESOP, which is lifestyle driven, but also appeal to social conscience. ESOP, I think the name probably come from Aesop fable. Some of you may recall Aesop fable is an ancient Greek storyteller and also a slave. Yeah. He has 725 fables in maybe about 600 years before BC. Yeah. Okay. Yes. So this is a lifestyle goods and what they have done, besides having all the soaps, they actually have a way of being socially responsible. They actually, for example, beside all the standard thing, production method, ingredient, energy, packaging, they have a partnership with Sembcorp to introduce R&R, rinse and return. So I think many of the customer actually return. If you are invited to return, and if it's plastic, you advised to wash it before you return. If it's a tube, they might help you to recycle. So I think it's very good. They use this recycling concept to appeal to a new breed of consumers, which are building up very fast. And they also donate money. For every container recycled return, they will make a $1 contribution to Zero Waste SG for the circular economy. So I think this is another example, the new breed. So instead of many of our existing product, you can actually innovate in such a way that you can cater to circular economy. So this is a second example. Aesop brand beauty, it was just highlighted in July this year, last month. So third example is how food was also highlighted just last month, just a few days ago. A startup that use AI and machine learning to create healthier formulation. Would you want a donut that's designed recipe made by AI? I'm not sure, but this is lifestyle driven. You can see on the top right side in my case study matrix, and they leverage on knowledge and technology, and I'm very proud of it because they are founded by 4 NUS graduates in various disciplines. In fact, many of the startups are founded by university students in all universities in Singapore, in polytechnics, even in schools. So this was founded by them. How food, and exactly what do they do? They formulate food using AI platform to create healthier baked goods, meats. I don't know how it's done, but it's actually done. So I think it's just coming up soon. It's an emerging product, so probably they will not make money yet, but it's still getting the commercializing. They just got their a VC to fund them 3 million. So again, this is a new breed of things start out, but even existing company can use this concept to innovate your existing product, follow a startup. In fact, we should not be even talking about entrepreneurship. SME can talk about intrapreneurship, internal innovation. No need to do a startup, but of course you can even spin off your own startup. I know a lot of large company, they spin off their own startup to get to the market faster, or they go around buying out startups. So this one is using AI, the third dimension, lifestyle driven knowledge application as a leverage. So as a last example, which is another part of my framework, purpose-driven knowledge application. And I highlight this not because I'm from NUS Business School, but because I was chairman of the branding council just some years back to rebrand NUS Business School. So we came up with a new logo, we came up with a new tagline, and also interestingly, this one I think it's recorded, but never mind, I just put it on record. The vision and the mission statement were actually written by the branding council, not so much by the CEO or the management body. The branding council took charge of everything. In fact, we even created 5 core values of the NUS Business School, which eventually were slightly adapted and adopted by the entire university. So this came out from my committee, and then we came out from with a new mission, a new tagline, which is leading from Asia. It's very interesting because my committee has professors coming from different countries: Americans, Asian, Chinese, India, Singaporean, and some administrator. So when we rebrand, because technically our business school is also SME, because we are not that big, but the whole university is big, but our business school is actually a very comfortable SME. We wanted the word leadership or leading, we wanted Asia. So we debated and debated. So somebody say, is it leading in Asia, leading for Asia, leading with Asia, leading by Asia? Then one smart professor said maybe it should be called leading in spite of Asia. The two concepts, people can say because you're Asia, you're handicapped, because we are always fighting against the Western league, American, Europe. So Asia was actually a handicap, when we put our best research against the American. Sometimes if you come from Asia, they will not want to look at it. So, so we went ding dong. In the end, we say leading from Asia. So it was kept for some years now. So this is another rebranding that's sustainable, catering to purpose, leveraging on knowledge application. So you can see it's spread all over now, our new branding. In fact, together with the branding, we also have it's almost the same time we got a big funding from Mokhtar Raidi, chairman of Lippo Group. He funded quite a large sum of money to rename the building. You can see on the right side, on the left side, the building. And if you come into atrium, we got funding to build this building. If you look carefully in the center of the building, we put all the key stakeholders' picture on the building, the faculty, the chairman, the alumni. Lo and behold, I don't know, I didn't decide. They put my picture at the center of the whole building. So you can see, please come to NUS Business School, visit me. I will personally welcome you there. If I'm not there, my picture is there. Okay, so this is sustainable framework. I pause here for 30 seconds to see, sustainability leading to brand value. I think that the best way is through sustainable brands. Even with your existing brand now, you can rebrand yourself to be sustainable. But of course, don't just brand. Make sure that your product offering live up to the promises. Okay, any questions? Are there any? Let me just check the chat. There's someone, let me see. Okay, I say Hassan Hajam first. Should we have policy innovation at the country level, regional? Yes, definitely. In Singapore, we do have it at the country level. In fact, one of the key committee that dish out a lot of support funding is this Research, Innovation and Enterprise Council at the national level, chaired by our DPM, Heng Swee Kiat. Regional level, I hope maybe ASEAN can get together. Perhaps those who are knowledgeable, maybe Thomas can elaborate on some of the initiative in ASEAN. If you want to jump into the mic, anyone, ASEAN level, I think there's some initiative, international too, but they are not well coordinated. Most of the initiative are at the country level. Yeah, Singapore
Yes.
too. Okay. Yeah. Is that you, Thomas?
Yes. I just wanted to add that you have already summarized. There's a lot of statements in ASEAN, but the coordination is a problem because ASEAN is an association of members. It's
Yes.
not a block, so everybody can be a member and do what they want.
Correct. We make more statements than we get the act together sometimes. Yeah. But of course, it's not peculiar to ASEAN, peculiar to all supranational organizations, right? Yeah. Now we have the G7 countries on the build back, G20, some of the initiative by them build back better, to compete with China, Belt and Road, but no money, yeah, they talk only. Yes. Yeah. Okay. Okay, then another question, Michelle Zhang, again, very good. You are very active. If you come to my class, you will score A+ for participation. I'm really interested and
Sorry.
passionate. Who is that? Michelle? Okay, come on,
Hey, Michelle. Yeah,
articulate.
hi, Prof. No, because I think I actually put the chat in wrong to the group chat instead. I was actually replying to someone, and now I find your session really interesting, and because I'm a professional in the higher education industry. Okay, I'm not an academic, but I'm learning, and I just wanted to know, right? Based on the Times Impact ranking, what is NUS like position in this? Because I don't see Singapore being featured, and I can see all the now they are showing the case studies and all that.
Yes.
So why is a pity that Singapore is not featured in that impact ranking?
Yes, yeah, right.
So yeah, do you have any thoughts on this?
No, I think there are actually many indicators, which is why sometimes in many of the ranking, I would say there's a certain tendency to highlight the usual suspects, for example, the Western countries. So usually within many universities in Singapore, including NTU and NUS, we usually use Asia as the benchmark. So we are always saying we are best in Asia, which is true.
Yeah.
NUS and NTU are always in many rankings, always ranked number 1 and 2.
Correct.
In Asia. And I think one thing which we are very lucky and we are very happy about it is, we sometimes rank ahead of bigger countries in Asia, Japan, China, Australia, I mean, we consider as part of Australia, sure, so, but of course, you're right, which is why just now I jokingly say that when we brand ourselves, we spoke so much, we say we should be leading in spite of Asia. Asia was our handicap because in many of our cutting edge research, we send to say economics, the top journal is, say one of the top is American Economic Review. Asian data usually don't get too much attention unless it's American data. Even in marketing as well, the top journals are all American journal of marketing research, journal marketing. They like to look at consumers in American markets. Yeah, I mean, who cares about Singapore market? So small. I mean, when I live in US for 8 years, most of the time they think Singapore is in China, which is good. But at least someone got very close. Are you part of Malaysia? Usually I don't argue with them on the street. I say, yeah. Have you been there? I'll just say, have you been there? I don't want to say yes or no. Other I get into a fight, they shoot me,
Understand. Okay, because that was why I was asking about the UNPRI and whether there's like lots of greenwashing, because I don't know. I feel like sometimes I see all these rankings and all that or the things, and I don't really feel that there's a positive impact or there are so for organizations, should we do it because to support these initiatives, or should we do it to really make a difference? That's what.
Okay. Greenwashing is a very big topic. Maybe if you are keen, I will get my contact. Next month, I'm speaking in another forum on greenwashing, just a dedicated talk on greenwashing. If you are keen, I will get, you can get the link from me. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Greenwashing is a very, very big topic. Yeah. That's why now in sustainability conference, I don't usually like to wear green anymore because they, you see me, I'm wearing blue. I'm more concerned about rising sea level than green now.
Okay.
Okay. In fact, I even put an iceberg here. The hidden message is, if the iceberg all melt, Singapore will be more in trouble than 1.5 degree or 2 degree or even 3 degrees. Yeah, okay. Yeah, we'll be totally gone. Yeah, if if all the sea level rise. Okay, let me move on so that we keep on time. Now, let me go on to the ASEAN part. Now that I have all the insights from Singapore and also from sustainable brands, mostly in Singapore, how does the rest of ASEAN countries feel? So there was this study which is just published also a few days ago. Every talk I give is always up to the date. Yeah. So a few days ago, it was published, commissioned by a company. It's spelled with a small d. This distillery. It's not a whiskey company. They don't do alcohol, but it's just a content studio, a marketing company. I don't know why they call distillery. At first, when I look at it, I thought they make good whiskey. I wanted to try, where do the whiskey come from? What's their brand? But actually, it's a content studio. They correspond with another very big platform called Maliu. They took 1,500 respondents in 3 countries just to see what's the difference. So you can see that ASEAN is a totally different picture. Just by this small study, you can see that, first of all, interestingly, in this 3-country inter-country comparative study, Indonesian consumers actually place more emphasis on brand purpose, which is something quite counterintuitive. I would thought Singapore would score very high. If you look at the statistics, let me activate my pointer. Okay, if you look at the statistics, Singapore, you can see willing to pay more for brands with purpose. Indonesia, almost close to 100%. Singapore, way below Malaysia and Indonesia. Only 2/3 willing to pay more for brands with purpose. If you say review their brand choice regularly, Singapore, they're all very lazy. They don't want to review brands, always stick to the same regular brand like me, so comfortable. You see, Singapore is a totally different market. You look at pick brands based on societal stance. Singapore is again much lower because these two are very reputable research bodies. So I think the sample size is quite well constructed. So you can see Singapore score very low in all the social and purpose. Maybe you know why, but Indonesia somehow scored the highest. Malaysia is quite close, but the distant last out of 3 is Singapore. Then if you look at other things like plastic waste, I highlight just a few interesting things. In terms of plastic waste, again, compared to other things, if you look at Singapore, in terms of plastic waste, it is the top issue, but in Singapore, it is below sustainable living. In Indonesia, the top issue is plastic waste. In Malaysia, the top issue is plastic waste. In Singapore, the top issue is sustainable living. So if you can do sustainable living using a lot of plastic, yeah, okay. Okay, then you look at another set of study, supporting societal and environmental causes impact KPI. Again, Singapore doesn't score very well. It's very interesting. Maybe some of you may know better reason because all of you are SME and you're closer to the market. But this is all the true finding. It correlate with many of my other studies as well in sustainability reporting. Yeah. Maybe I pause here in case there are 1 or 2 questions because I don't want to have a grand Q&A if you have views about this. Anyone?
Quite short.
Yeah, very short.
Thomas, could I say something? I'm Thomas here. Actually, I'm not surprised because I think all the ASEAN countries that we go, Singapore is the most, we call it hard-headed and one dimension, make money. Because in my life, I've got politicians telling me if it doesn't make money, they are not interested. So sometimes is whether we do greenwashing, impact washing, we call it being pragmatic.
Yeah, right. No, hey, so the statistics are like that. No, my only suggestion is maybe I think our organization, Brands for Good, we should do consumer education also.
Yeah. Wow.
Yes, Lawrence, could I also say, when you put the word product and service stewardship, it's actually consumer protection as one of the least subjects that we look at. So consumers, the awareness of consumers is not very high to support causes.
Yeah.
So we would be not very successful in boycotting some things compared to maybe some other countries.
Yes, correct. But what my only worry, if all our organizations, company, SME look at this result, then, of course, in business, we want to make according to the needs of customer. We don't bother about plastic anymore. We continue to use, we continue to, no need to talk about purpose, just make sure that they enjoy their product. So I don't know which candle, which end of the candle we should burn. Is it the SME, or is it from the supply side, or is it something on the demand side? I think this is something probably we need to look at, because I'm also talking now to CASE and other organizations to see what things needs to be done. Don't just be concerned about consumer complaints. We need to educate consumers as well. Yeah, I think these are something maybe food for thought. Okay. Yeah, maybe I will leave here and then we can come back to this again after I show my last part of the study, and then I have some issues. The last part is actually the ASEAN part. We have sustainability leading to brand. I have already established for Singapore, but the missing link is still ASEAN. And ASEAN, we already see from the sustainable brand, is totally different. Indonesia, Malaysia, consumer are so different from Singapore. Singapore is always the odd country out in ASEAN. But sometimes the being odd one out just now was not the very sustainable odd one out. I mean, yeah. So in ASEAN, let me just conclude, then we can have a grand Q&A. We have the sustainability studies, just that we don't have the value study yet. So over the years, it's a biennial study that my center runs with Thomas Center, the network, CSR Network, and as we've been doing. So our next sequel will be 2022. Thomas, we need to start the ball rolling now. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so we do this and we have very good results. Over the last 2 years, Singapore don't rank well, but just in this year, we have this framework again, which is based on our earlier framework. I don't want to go into the framework, but it's based quite closely to the original framework that we have done, the content as well as principle. This is just from the corporate side. Among the larger, the listed companies, some of them are big, some are small, but among the higher end of the listed company, this year result was a bit different. Singapore used to be second or third. This year, Singapore, in terms of the quality of the results, come to be better. But then the consumer side, Indonesia, Malaysia seem to be better. So they're all the mid signal. You can see, Vietnam is of course still emerging. Philippines too. Thailand. Thailand used to do very well, but this time I'm not sure. So our study look also into all the specific aspects, but not to worry. I just want to show you here to give you the impression on what are the things people look for. Usually in sustainability, board governance don't seem to do well, which is actually the most serious issue, because if board governance is not strong for sustainability, it is disastrous for the company. The board of directors are not committed. In fact, just 2 weeks ago, I spoke to SME, listed SME, the deputy chairman, also executive director, just told me, we believe in sustainability. Every year we pay a consultant $8,000. They write it for me, we just submit. Yeah. Full stop. Yeah. And then that's what he says. And he says a lot of companies are like that. They just get a consultant to write. So back to one of the first question, are consultant relevant? Maybe in a very humorous way, yes, because they help company to write sustainability report, which is not good. There's no ownership, there's no commitment. It's totally undesirable. Okay, so this is my next question. So far, I don't have this study. Maybe if anyone is interested to partner Thomas and myself to run this study, will be most willing to do it. The ASEAN equation, knowing the ASEAN is so different from Singapore, is still an unresolved. How brand value can be derived from sustainability. Perhaps maybe Brand for Goods may be interested to do this study. I'm not sure, but I think going forward, this will have probably a lot of impact to do inter-country comparison and then marry up, triangulate with consumers. So this is my overall thought. Just to recap, I have covered 4 elements. The last one is insight, and I maybe want to stop here for our grand Q&A, our dialogue. Instead of putting dialogue, I put up something just for show, so that in case you have any question related to this or even not related to this, I will open to the floor. And I think these are some of the summative challenges faced by SME. The first thing is business case and your stakeholders, particularly say your investors. Number 2 is your internal preparedness, your capabilities, which is your skills, your capacity, which is your structures. Okay, and then 3 is your priority, are your resources allocated to elsewhere, or are they squarely dedicated to sustainability? From my study in many organizations, sometimes it's sustainability is an afterthought. The residual resources are left for sustainability. The rest take everything, we don't know. And then now the 2 missing link, sustainable brands, who can help to guide the journey? Consultants. How do you embed market growth, in other words, the consumer, into your strategy? So these are some of the questions I get in the circuit when I meet with a lot of SME. I'm not sure about you, but maybe I will stop here to hear opinions and questions. Maybe more opinions I won't want to answer. Let the audience speak the opinion rather than me answering the question. So let's have a dialogue. Yeah. Okay. Glenn, you want to moderate the dialogue? Yeah.
Wow. So last minute spanner in the work. Maybe we pull back to the last slide. You had quite a number of summative challenges for SMEs, and I think many of us will probably feel the same way about, does it matter to our stakeholders? How can we convince them the business case for it, and then making the link and all that. So does anyone actually have a question that would like to sort of voice out in terms of our conversation here?
Thomas here, could I say something?
Oh, sure, Thomas, go ahead.
Okay, I think the first thing I want to do is actually thank Lawrence, and I think we should all congratulate him. He has just been made a full professor. So you know why NUS, he's too young for the promotion, but you know, he got ahead of his time. Huh? So congratulations.
Okay, thank you, Thomas. Yeah. In fact, Thomas, this is the first talk I gave after I got the promotion.
All the more, I think we should all put the reaction there and give you an applause. Okay. The second one is actually when we talk about Singapore and the other countries, I think it's also the consumer behavior. It's also the role of governments. A lot of places, the Singaporeans, we have tend to become a bit lazy because we leave most vetting, screening to the government to do. So whatever is there, you expect them to meet certain standards and go up. While in many other countries, you cannot trust the government because of corruption, because of the links between certain business interests and things. I mean, just look at countries just across the causeway or somewhere, which they can sell non-halal meat passed off as halal in a, I mean, how is it ever possible or get licensed and all? So there is a lot of distortions due to either incompetence or corruption. So I think that's also one of the reasons why the Singaporean can be lazier and more relaxed on some of the consumer issues. I'm not sure how it is. So if it goes along that argument, then the role of government must be more important. The famous saying by Amartya Sen that the invisible hand of the market needs the visible hand of the government to guide it. control.
Yes.
What do you think
Yeah.
about that?
Yeah. Maybe other people have opinion, because I really like your analogy of the hand, Thomas. In fact, even sometimes my contrary view is, the government get too involved. The hand can be very heavy. But I always, when I work in civil service before I was seconded there, I always tell my big bosses there privately, we, the government, should have a heavy hand, but with a light touch. Yeah.
Can I just jump in also? I think the role of, besides government, of course, I think education is also very important, because I feel that the younger generation, like my daughter and all that, they're really more passionate, and they truly believe that they have a more purposeful role to play, in the process, as compared to maybe say my parents, whereby the mindset and the thinking is a bit different. And I think it's also the same in an organization, because, we have younger workers, we also have the older workers, and and that I think there is actually quite a gap, to how they approach this topic. Yeah.
Yes, I think education play a part, and I think actually a lot of parents, even myself and you too, we are learning from our children, about sustainability. It's on the habit side. On the daily basis, you just throw something on the floor. They say, oh, recycle this. They tell, oh, this is blue color bin, green color bin, whatever color. Up to now, it's still quite confused, but all the children, they are learning in school. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So education, government, are there any very key, I would say, influencer or even a promoter or enforcer in this whole equation of things? Yeah.
I think I attended an event in the UK, a virtual one. They talk a lot about the sustainability thing. So Europe, they are very strict on this, but I think the biggest challenge right now is data. And data, because I'm not saying like there's the quantity. Quantity, yes, there's still insufficient data to actually better understand how to make sense and solve the problem. But it's more of quality, because in the end, if you got so much data but you don't know how to use it, then companies also don't know how to approach how to integrate the sustainability into their own business operation more efficiently.
Correct. So now we have a lot of information, but someone has to put them all together into organized framework for company to tap on. For example, in my center, we do a lot of evidence-based work. But again, my challenge is a translation to real practice, which is why I need to always do reality check, go around, talk to real companies and, find out what are the real issues, challenges. And I think this Brand for Good is definitely a very good platform to not only initiate a dialogue, but to actually ignite action. Yeah.
Yeah,
Good afternoon. Sorry. Afternoon, Professor. My name is Wei Ping. So a bit of background, I'm a founder of a social enterprise for the past decades. So I do see elements of what I have been doing right in your presentation so far. So I guess my biggest challenge as someone who is trying to be a practitioner of sustainable business, right, is about these two key challenges. First one, all this research and up to date data and all the standards that's been very current, right? It's something that we always have to learn first. Then after we gain this knowledge, right, the next question is how can we be a practitioner of all this knowledge? We need to internalize them. So I guess there's one missing thing I'm always trying to seek around is there a one-stop center that can, like what you're trying to do, get the latest technology immediately, data research, just put them in one place and then quickly pass it to practitioner who can implement straight away. Yeah, so I guess this is a challenge for me personally because I'm attending a lot of webinar. I'm getting bits and pieces of information. The next thing is I ask myself is who do I talk to? The series of questions here, there are 5 points here, right? They're all relevant. So on each of the point, I find that I have to go find who is the expert. And then whether the expert is helping me in terms of giving me knowledge, or the expert is the consultant can help me to look at my processes and tell me specifically these are the actions you have to do on a daily basis.
Yes.
Or you have to go back to the drawing board and look at your brand.
Right, right.
Yeah,
Yeah, I like this
huge.
idea. Yeah. Okay, so wow, one-stop center. And right now, I think again, I think Brands for Good, even my research center, but unfortunately, sometimes my challenge phase is, we need all the resources, you know what I mean? Even my research center, we're doing all this thing about sustainability governance. We are totally self-funded. I don't receive any government funding, university funding, school funding. Every piece of work that I do at the center, even though it's for the common good, I raise the money myself. You know what I mean? Yeah, Thomas will know. I mean, you have the same challenge as me, totally funded, even though, your work is so, I would say earth-shaking, so momentous. But again, there must be a proper macro allocation of resources, and because many of these are free good type of issue, public good issue. So you're right, and how do I address you?
Weeping.
Weeping,
yes.
What is your name of your startup? Yeah.
Connect Private Limited. Connect. I'm actually a training and education company.
Oh,
yes.
yeah. Maybe I should find out more. I can quote you as my next case study for other audiences.
So Weeping, let me share my own journey. I run another business called CEO Asia, which is the Secretariat for Brands for Good, right? And
okay.
Honestly, I've also been trying to find a one-stop source for information and to answer certain questions and all that, right? The conclusion is there isn't one, and I figured this was 5-6 years ago, right? To even begin to learn this, the best way was to try and learn it from the best. So hence why Brands for Good was sort of formed. Personally, I did it as a learning journey for myself. And I then cobbled a group of people and friends and convinced everybody else to say, hey, I think this is something that we can do together and learn together, especially. That's my personal journey. Yeah. So going through all these webinars and having conversations like this with Prof. Loh and with some of the participants in Brands for Good, sort of gives us sort of the opportunity and the insight to see what they're doing and where they're getting their sources of information or their sources of what. There isn't really one, I think, unless of course NUS Prof. Loh wants to start something and start doing a whole
yeah, why not?
Around that, right?
Yes.
You mean an information hub or information like a wiki page or a wiki or I'm sorry, I'm like
yeah.
Oh yes, actually I used to work on a project last year with a group of volunteers. They create this thing called the Green Lobang. So the Green Lobang is that one-stop wiki page for all this information. I can send you the link for it.
Oh, wonderful! Yeah, you should share that. We all love to see what you put together. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think to introduce myself also, I'm Michael. I think Jen know me also. So I'm creating a kind of a super app to actually allow people to look for solutions and do their own sustainability compliance as well.
Very good, very good.
Yeah. Okay, does anyone else have a question? I mean, we've got 7 more minutes till actually technically by the end of this webinar, and we're supposed to have a quick breakout room after that. So I think we sort of want to open the floor to any comments, last minute questions.
Could I just do it's Thomas here again? I think there are 2 parts that I wish to comment on. One is on the awareness. Why is consumer awareness not? I think I have earlier talked about the role of government, but I also want to say actually it's also the importance of our citizens taking initiative. In many of the countries like us, like Malaysia or other places, they have a very much more active civil society than compared to Singapore. And if you look at consumer education, the Malaysian, they have a Penang Consumer Association of Penang CAP. They has been working very long. They also not very rich, no government funding, but they had one patron of a very rich old man called Mr. Idris, who actually used his own money to actually fund the whole organization, and then got outside funders to come in and help for project business. So I think the idea is that we have people who can build that kind of mobilization of interest. I see some hope in the sense that the younger people talks about green things and other things, but it's great, but I think we also need to talk of people. The way we protest about giving a day off for a maid or the lower income people, it all becomes cost. It's not really about giving people a proper livelihood. The second part is on the point I wanted to comment was on the knowledge sharing. In the Ariba website, we will be building up, we hope to build up stories on the different teams that we have and short stories teams on journeys, so that could inspire people. We may not be able to give you great stories, but I think it is an input on the small journeys that you do, the challenges, how you did it and how you succeeded. Or even if you fail, why did you fail? Because these are lessons for other people to do. So with Shark and the others, if we have stories, we can always compile and over time build up a repository. Beyond the official studies and the theses that we have done with Lawrence, this could also be quite useful. So this, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Thomas. Any last words? Esther, would you like to share a little? No? She's very quiet, President. Okay, so Prof, maybe you want to have a quick closing remarks or any thoughts on terms? And of course, do share with us your deck and the study that you did, particularly on your brand and value.
Yes. I think not much last thought, but I just want to share that, it's a pleasure to be here sharing with you. And I think I really look forward to, moving in this journey with Brands for Good, with you, Grant, Thomas, and all the partners who are, in this audience, Michael, Michelle, and several others who have contributed actively, and also those who are observing. I hope to maintain the dialogue. So please feel free to contact me and we can see what we can do in terms of resourcing as well as advancing the frontier of sustainability. Because Grant, in the background, there's this ferry wheel. Every time we talk about sustainability, it's like the ferry. You just go round and round. We never move anywhere. So I think we should be like the other side, the super tree.
That's true.
Yeah. So thank you so much, Brands for Good, Grant, Thomas, and all others for inviting me. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lawrence, for accepting the invitation. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all. So guys, since we're all now here, and I think as per our usual sharing, what we'll do is we'll have a breakout room. We'll stop recording now, and then go into a breakout room just after this, and